Okay, so I will now call to order the meeting of the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation, also known as Watsonville Community Hospital, for Wednesday, September 24th. Rosie, whenever you have an opportunity, please give us a roll call.
Here. Director Cox. Here. Director Creel. Here. Director Gallagher.
Here.
Director Lindahl.
Here.
And attorneys.
Here, thank you. So we have nothing to report out of the closed session that we just came out of. Do we have any agenda modifications for consideration from staff for tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on to public comments for matters not on tonight's agenda. And see that we have a packed house today, so I just want to get a sense of how many folks in person would like to speak, just a show of hands. And if you're wishing to speak on this item online, if you could raise your hand just to get a sense of how many folks would like to speak today on matters not on tonight's agenda. Okay, seeing none. So given the number of hands that were raised, we'll keep the public comment portion for this part of the meeting to 2 minutes for each speaker. And so just want to give a reminder, all speakers who are called up, please approach the podium. And if you feel comfortable, say your name, where you're from, if you work here, those sorts of things, some basic information. If you feel comfortable doing so. And then also a reminder that it is a public comment portion of the meeting. It's not a question portion. And so if you do have questions, I'll take track of those questions, and then at the end of the public comment portion, then I'll come back to the board and to staff to see if we can answer any of those questions here tonight. If not, we will try to get the answers for you. We'll start online first. Any raised hands online wishing to speak on items not on tonight's hospital corporation meeting?
No hands online.
Okay. Anyone in person wishing to speak on? Yes. Thank you. And so Rosie will be taking time for 2 minutes, and she'll let you know when the time's up. And I'll let you close up your comments as the time comes up.
Thank you. My name is Isha. I am one of the charge nurses in the emergency room. I have worked at this hospital for 25 years. And I have committed my professional career here. One, because I believe that this community is an underserved community, and I want to be here. I have seen this hospital in transition many, many times over the years that I have been here. And a lot of us who have been here could stuck it out and had other options to go other places, chose not to, because our heart is here, not just with the community, but with each other. And a lot of the nurses, many who are here, were really upset when the hospital was gonna go bankrupt or the top of bankruptcy, and did a lot of work to help get this hospital the word out on the streets, and just committing to here in our community, and are still here. We're in a lot of transition right now, and one of my big comments is it's really hard to do quality patient care. We have a lot of equipment that is not working. We have a lot of supplies that we don't have. We transfer many patients out of this community that I would like to see stay here. And I just want to let you know that the people that work here from day to day, boots on the grounds, the ones that are bedside, taking care of patients with very little, it's really, really difficult. Yet we show up every single day and we take care of these people, and there's a lot of uncertainty right now. I every single day. It is a bit reminiscent of 2020 when COVID was here. And every day we showed up, we didn't know what supplies we would have to take care of the patients. We didn't know which
Thank you. If you
patient.
can close your comments.
So I would just like to see that this hospital stay intact for the community, for the people that work here. And I hope that everybody's working to their very best.
Thank you. Hi, please.
My name is Roseanne Ferris, and I'm a nurse here. I've worked here 30 years, and I'm also chief nurse rep for our hospital union. Nurses are guardians of this hospital, always advocating for safe patient care, coming together as a community with the right decision to secure this hospital. The decades of hard work the nurses have done paved the way to make this miracle happen. Since we've become a district hospital, nurses have continued to advocate for this community, pushing for no downgrades of vital services, including our IICN, safeguarding proven leadership in our critical care department, not having only not in-person doctors, having safe staffing and safe patient care. We will continue to advocate for these needs. We count on management to do their job so that nurses can focus on saving lives and healing patients. Our current situation isn't as a result of cuts to healthcare. Cuts are still coming. We haven't seen the necessary changes from upper management to help secure our financial viability. We can't be one sick call away from closing an OR room. We can't afford to pay for a cath lab and not securing physicians and patients to help pay for that bill. Services need to be stabilized so that they are always available. Rebranding, consultants, and anything that we're spending that isn't necessary needs to stop. The most urgent task is getting our charges and billing in order so that we are paid for services provided. We stand for no unit closures, and we do not accept your financial shortfalls to be on the backs of our patients or our employees here at Watsonville Community Hospital. Thank you.
Good evening, elected board and fellow nurses. My name is Annabelle Covington, and I have been a registered nurse in our labor and delivery unit for the past 23 years. I am also proud to be an elected CNA nurse rep. Unfortunately, tonight we are here yet again to prevent upper management from potentially stripping medical services from our patients and community. Over the past 2 years, staff at my unit alone have repeatedly spoke with former COO and current CEO about numerous mischarges for medical services and supplies. We attempted to ensure we are being fiscally responsible following bankruptcy and returning to our hospital to public ownership. But the fact is that nothing ever changed. Instead, we have watched our communication be ignored and missing charges continued, all while recovering a constant flurry of memos and warnings from upper management that it was we, the frontline nurses and other employees, who need to tighten our belts. In addition, nurses on our union professional practice committee and nurse colleague forum, who meet monthly with nursing administration and the CEO to discuss practice and working conditions issues, also brought these concerns to management's attention. In fact, at our most recent monthly meeting on Friday of last week, a meeting in which we were informed at the last minute that nursing administration would not be attending, we discussed that in the entire month of July, the hospital failed to charge for newborn deliveries because a key form was not included to get patients' consent to bill. Nurses immediately brought this to the attention of management, but the fact remains that our major billing failure occurred at a point when senior administration had announced our hospital is again in serious financial danger. Just last month, CNA and other unions were called to meetings with senior administration. We were given a presentation about all the C-suite has done over the past 2 years to make our now public hospital a success. Then we were asked to agree to open up our contract a year early and accept major concessions. At that time, we were told that even if we agreed to these takeaways, upper management may decide to cut services. In other words, we were told it was up to the workers to sacrifice and maybe, just maybe, keep medical services open for our patients.
Thank you.
Good evening. Okay, good evening. My name is Shannon Castro, and I'm a registered nurse in the Suffolk Procedure Department. I'm here tonight because our hospital is in crisis, and the people who suffer most are our patients. For nearly 2 years, we've had little to no on-call GI physician coverage, and our in-house radiologist is only available 2 days a week. These aren't minor gaps. They are serious failures that force us to send patients elsewhere for care they should be getting right here. It delays treatment and jeopardizes outcomes. Nurses have raised these issues again and again to the previous CEO, to the current administration, and through our union, but we keep getting the same answer. We're working on it. Meanwhile, the problems remain. Special procedures has been chronically short-staffed for over a year. Instead of fixing it, leadership pulls from other critical units like PACU or calls us in last minute. It's not a solution. It's a Band-Aid on a system that's bleeding out. And while we're trying to provide quality care, we're doing it with broken gurneys, unreliable monitors, and outdated equipment. Does the board realize how that looks to patients and families? Because the optics are terrible. And more importantly, the risks are real. Broken equipment isn't just an inconvenience, it's a safety issue, one that puts both patients and staff in harm's way. And now, leadership is asking nurses to accept concessions. They want help from the bedside to fix failures at the top. Let me be clear, nurses did not cause this crisis, but we're being asked to carry the burden. When the hospital was facing closure, it was nurses who saved it by rallying our community and fighting to keep it open. Now we're asking you, the board, to do the same. You have the authority. Hold this leadership accountable.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Esther Golden. I've been a nurse here for 18 years and I work in CCU. I'm going to be reading a statement on behalf of Louise Pierce from CCU, a nurse here for almost 20 years. If I could be standing before you, I would be, as I have many times before. I would remind you that the hospital is the beating heart of our community, and the staff that work here deserve better. The community deserves better than the way this hospital administration is thinking. Please look closely and listen to us. We understand the dire nature of the conversation. We want this hospital to survive and to thrive. We cannot do this when we are saddled with an administration that doesn't listen. Leadership that mistreats and undermines nurses, staff, physicians, patients, and the Watsonville community must be held accountable. Please do whatever you can do to make things right. Lives in our community literally depend on this. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Valerie Pansich, and I am a WCH nurse of 12 years. I've spoken here a time or two before, and so I'm sorry if this message sounds repetitive. It's just the problem seems ongoing and unchanged. Our financial situation, strike that crisis, ensues. Despite the promises and changes we're constantly hearing from our leaders, the image printed in the papers is smoke and mirrors for what's happening in these walls. Pipes bursting, ceilings leaking, elevators failing, phones and computers down is our everyday life. In fact, 2 days ago, I was working in an MRI room flooded with water, yielding it unavailable for our patients. No MRI, no CT, no echo, limited in-person specialties, and suppliers and resources who refuse to work with us because we have a lack of payment is the norm for our little hospital. It shouldn't be. Where's our money going? Was it poured into a cath lab that wasn't ready to open? Was it spent on the charcuterie boards to celebrate its one case? And is it still leaching out to pay the cath lab travelers who are doing what? Or was it spent on the new image and science? What's the phrase about lipstick on a pig? Where is our money going? I hate to think anywhere else than back to serving our patients, but I would appreciate we look at investigating these losses. Stop asking the nurses to fix your mismanagement of the money. We know this isn't our fault, and we're tired of cleaning up your messes.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Celeste Nelson. I'm a registered nurse in the ER for the last 8 years. Tonight, I'm here with my fellow union nurses and addressing the elected hospital board about ongoing concerns that we have, such as failure to properly charge for medical services, lack of supplies that we have all said, lack of physicians forcing us to ship our patients out of the ER, unsafe staffing, violations of contract, and a punitive work culture. Nurses, we've used our chain of command to make management aware of these issues. And often we get no response, we get no resolution, it just merely goes away. So now we're learning that despite these warnings, we're also once again facing serious financial risks of closing. Last month, upper management asked to meet with our union and asked us to open our contract a year early, accept cuts to our negotiated terms. And we were told the employer wanted us to give up our final raise in our contract and agree to a reduction of our earned pension plan. However, senior administration told us that even if we went forward with these medical cuts, that we would potentially lay off workers, close units, and leave patients searching for care elsewhere. When our hospital was facing bankruptcy and potential closure 3 years ago, the nurses stood out, we stood united, and we spoke out to our community. We organized, stood collective, and earned to save the hospital and preserve these medical services. We also want to cite that many members of our elected hospital board, administration, and other boards, such as the one in Monterey County, joined us in on that fight. After that, we also agreed in bargaining to give back by accepting a higher health insurance rate and most of us going full-time. Our union nurses did this because we all have worked so hard to save our hospital in the past and want to make sure it survived and kept all the services open for our patients. We gave all we could to make this work, and not even 3 years later, we're here again. Nurses are not responsible for managing the hospital. We don't manage the budget, we don't manage staffing, and we don't deal with medical services. The C-suite does that. Threats to close medical services and taking from the nurses and vital other frontline staff is not only taking the responsibility away from you and putting it on us, but tonight we're calling our elected hospital board to stand with the nurses, and we direct this employer to maintain all medical services and put the responsibility where it belongs, not on us.
Thank you.
Good evening, elected hospital board, community, and fellow union nurses. My name is Alice Myers, and I'm a registered nurse in the emergency department. Tonight, I am here alongside fellow nurses to speak out about a critical issue that impacts not only myself, but numerous other RNs. Nurses have consistently witnessed contract violations by management, and despite numerous attempts to correct these payroll errors, I and others are experiencing a total lack of communication. It should not take weeks for a manager to respond, particularly when it is a payroll error and nurses are following unit protocol and our contract right to file an informal grievance to enforce our legal and binding contract and get the pay we have earned. Other RNs have experienced similar issues and what appear to be constant misinterpretations, whether intentional or not, that impacts our compensation. This is not just a financial strain on our frontline nurses. When nurses are constantly forced to have to fight for what is owed to us, it damages morale and creates a toxic work environment. This is a direct violation of the trust between management and nurses. The unnecessary stress and distraction that result from these violations also takes our attention away from where it should be, on our patients. Nurses stay at Watsonville because we care about our patients and our community. We work as a team and are dedicated to our profession. In addition to facing continuous payroll errors due to contract violations, it is shocking that our nurses are also learning the hospital is in a serious financial trouble again. As a frontline nurse, it is deeply troubling that senior administration would come to our nurses who graciously sacrificed during our last contract negotiations to increase our health insurance contributions and give up part-time positions and ask us now to give up even more. Nurses and other staff should be able to count on upper and middle management and expect to have leaders that are knowledgeable, respectful, and who lead by example. Instead, we are fighting for not only our supplies, lack of vital equipment, lack of physicians, but also for the employer to follow our legal and binding contract. Tonight, I stand with my fellow union nurses to call on our elected hospital board and to hold senior administrators accountable and ensure no medical services are cut and to direct them to follow our contract.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ryan Nolan, MD, FACS, one of the general surgeons here. I'm a member of the Coastal Healthcare Multi-Specialty Group, and I joined them back in 2021 in April with my partner at that time, Dr. Brent. When we both started here, we were the only two general surgeons in that multi-specialty group. Kind of coming in to bring fresh services to the operating rooms. When we first started here, we were regularly able to run 3 ORs out of our 4 existing rooms, with a possibility of a 4th. Right now, we don't even have the possibility to open a 4th room, and we regularly only run 2 rooms without even targeting a possible 3rd room. I think almost everybody in this room knows that the largest financial driver in a hospital is typically surgery and operating rooms, most especially orthopedic surgery. We've lost both of the orthopedic surgeons from my group, including a spine surgeon, which brings in a lot of money to the hospital, less cost. And then I would also like to comment that I lost my own surgery partner about 2.5 months ago. The reason she left, said she told everybody, was to go up to Washington State to be closer to family. That is partially true. The real reasons is from physician burnout while having to deal with a hospital and operating room that regularly does not function well. It's quite dysfunctional, and financial reasons. I can tell you, she and I took a large pay cut in the last year. I'll share her numbers. There's about $80,000 to $100,000 difference in the year prior to the current year. That was the main reason she left. She could not afford to live here anymore in Santa Cruz County. The idea that we are asking to cut services for the nurses to take cuts, I have personally taken a pay cut this past year. I'm fine with that, whatever. But the idea that we are asking those things, but not searching for other cuts in the finances, particularly in certain other salaries, and not seeking other better services that can work, is a little appalling. So I encourage the board to investigate that further, really probe and pry into the financial projections of this hospital.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Roush. I've been here 31 years, background in ICU, ER, and now PACU. I was not going to speak tonight because there's so many things that are still in flux around the cath lab. But as Dr. Nolan has spoken to you, it's very clear that our OR has not become first priority. And that really doesn't make any sense to me. ORs are where money comes in. And for various reasons, not having enough anesthesiologists, equipment, not having enough backup resources as far as if we have an orthopedist come in or other doctors to do surgery, we lose good surgeons. Surgery is where you make money. The cath lab is a huge hot issue, and it's been a stressor for our unit for the last couple of years. We're extremely mismanaged. We now have Kirsten that's coming in, which offers some kind of hope. She's a teacher and she's got a lot of respect in the community. But that has been handled like that is the savior for our hospital. There's other things. It's in the OR, there's pieces of equipment. My husband is a veterinary orthopedic surgeon. I know what those pieces of equipment cost. You get a small rod or screws. Those can be $3,000 and $4,000 and $10,000 a piece. That has been chronically underpriced, undercharged for, and therefore we're losing money there. So the way the finances have been managed here is hurting everybody. The hospital most of all, but it's hurting our patients. I don't know where we're gonna go with the cath lab. I don't know if some of these solutions are gonna work. You know, other hospitals have had cath lab nurses actually do the cath lab work and it's been put on our shoulders. So I just had to say something, and why our OR does not have the emphasis put on it and the focus financially as well as staffing is beyond me.
Thank you.
I love this hospital. I've been here 31 years.
Thank you.
And I've gone through a lot of changes with it.
Okay, is there anyone else wishing to speak on items not on tonight's agenda? Anyone online wishing to speak on items not on tonight's hospital corporation agenda?
No, that's all right.
Okay, so I'll close on the public comment for matters not on the agenda, and I'll open up to comments from our board members. Any comments from our board members?
Yeah, I have one.
Please.
I had the opportunity to attend the gala on the 13th, and it was an amazing evening. Lots of money raised, and I especially want to thank all those that were involved with that, as well as specifically June Ponce, who I think is coming up here. And then I appreciated participating in the union meetings a couple weeks ago to discuss the ongoing ad hoc meeting that we'll be discussing later regarding hospital. And I thought that it was great to hear from union representatives and also have an open discussion. So I know this is a really hard time, difficult time, and I hear all of those comments that are being said and take them very seriously. I was actually taking notes, not emailing friends, for those of you who saw me on my computer, so that we can understand the questions and the comments that are happening. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, please?
I just want to say thank you for everybody I know that it may feel intimidating to some, but I appreciate everybody got courage and the commitment and the passion that came from a place of caring for this hospital and bringing and caring for this community that came through in every pause and every word. And I just thank everybody who had the courage. We are here from this community, fighting for this community. We hope fighting with you. We want this hospital to be what you want it to be. It can't be anything without all of our staff who are here working for us. So I just want to thank everybody who's here for that and who's here fighting and making sure we're listening, because I think we are listening. We are here to listen. So I just appreciate the time and the courage and the commitment, and ask you to keep with those voices. We're the elected officials who are here to make sure we're available to everybody in the community, and most importantly, those who are working and serving and saving the lives. I just thank you for that. And we have some incredible headwinds that are coming to us, and some are hitting us a little early, maybe out of fear. And I'm confident that we'll continue to find solutions and honor all of our commitments and contracts. And I don't know, I'm running out of words to say other than this. It's a place of gratitude and frustration because we don't have all answers yet. We keep trying to get more information, so I just appreciate helping fill in some of those blanks. So thank you.
Any other questions, or I'm sorry, any other comments from the board members? I do have a couple comments, and I'll try to be brief, but I just a couple things. So also was over at the gala on the 13th, and so just thank you, June. Thank you to the administration for helping put that on in the foundation. The goal of that gala was actually to raise money for the OR, because we understand how important the operating room is in obviously both the short term and the long term sustainability of the hospital. So trying to raise money there to make the necessary improvements and repairs in those operating rooms so that we can continue to serve patients and that our staff has what they need. And so June's not here with us right now, but June, her team, and all of the, is she here? There you are, June. Hello. Thank you to you and your team and the committee that helped put that event on. Got so many great comments after the event, and that sunset on that 6-story garage is just amazing. And so just thank you for all your work putting that on, and for giving all of our folks who were able to join us an update about what the hospital is facing, and also the progress that the hospital has made and the challenges that we will face over the next few months and years. The other thing I wanted to acknowledge is I am a former journalist. Someone would call it has-been journalist, but some of my colleagues or former colleagues over at KION got notice just yesterday in the flash that they were no longer employed, and reached out to a few folks that I know there that I work with on a daily basis over at Community Bridges, my employer, and also folks that I know from the news industry. And so I just wanted to send just a good energy, good vibes to all the folks that lost their jobs over at KION, and to also put things into perspective as well, why that is really kind of a canary in the coal mine of what could be on the horizon for local news and for local businesses in our community. It's troubling not only because that means that there's going to be less local news in our community, there's going to be less people in our community that hold power to account, but then also because Telemundo was one of the only local Spanish language stations in our community, and that's an extremely important extremely important local service as I see it, that is no longer available to our residents. And so I think it really, these sorts of things in our community that happen when local news goes away, it really speaks to, and it speaks volumes about our current state of discourse in this country. You know, last year, Pew, which is a nationally recognized research database, they had a great, also troubling and as well as terrifying study that the leading source for local news among people nationally is your friends, family, and neighbors, overtaking local television news. And newspapers, which I used to work in, is 7th place behind things like social media, which is 3rd place after your friends, family, and neighbors, and local television news. And so really troubling time for discourse in our community, but then also in our nation as well. And so just want to send a challenge out to our board and to our administration to do everything that we can to support local news, to continue to be well read and to read everything that is happening in our community. And it's not just about staying informed with all of the bad news that's happening, but local news also connects us as a community for all of the great stuff that's happening in our community. And so just wanted to call that out as a former reporter, and it's just someone who yesterday just had a heavy heart for 20 folks in our community in the Central Coast who lost their job in an instant. The other thing I wanted to say, and I hope this is placed in the record, and I'll stop my comments after this, is that Tylenol is safe. Please continue to use Tylenol whenever needed. Please continue to believe in data. Please continue to believe in science. And I know that this administration will continue to cut down all of these really institutions and all of these trusted messengers in our nation. And it is very troubling and sends a shiver down my spine when the day, well, where a press conference like this can happen in our nation, and just the day before, the USDA said that they are no longer going to report on hunger in our community and across our nation. And so just a troubling time. And I know that probably these comments are best kept, or not kept, but best said in our district meeting, but I'll restate those comments in our district meeting, but just wanted to bring all these comments up to our board in that, yes, we are facing challenges in the hospital, we're facing challenges in healthcare, but we're facing challenges across our nation with just the very basic tenets of our society right now. So just want to challenge the board to continue to stay active, can challenge our administration to continue to do all the work that you're doing within the walls of the hospital, but think broader about all of the impacts that our community is going to be facing over the next 4 years, and hopefully it ends in those 4 years. So those are my comments for tonight. So please, Joe.
A couple of months ago, we got survey data from the employee satisfaction survey, which was awful last year and awful this year. This is the background information. Thank you so much for thank you so much to those who spoke to help fill in the statistics with the real situation. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other comments from the board, I'll move us on to our consent calendar for tonight. Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar. We have 3 items. Rosie, if you could read them off for us, please.
Yes, the first item is the minute approval from August 27th, 2025. The second item is the policies and policy summary approval, September 2025. And the third item is the Colorado Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation Conflict of Interest Code, September 2025 amendments.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board before I open up to public comment for the consent calendar to staff about these 3 items? No. Okay, then yeah, please.
I'm confused. I'm looking at what I think is the agenda. The regular agenda and the consent item has four items.
That might be the.
Sorry, sorry, my bad.
Sorry, no problem. So I'll now open up to public comment on, these 3 items. Anyone wishing to speak on the consent calendar tonight online?
No, no, no.
Anyone in person wishing to speak on either of these items? Okay, seeing none, I'll close down the public comment and I'll bring it back for any closing comments and an appropriate motion from the board.
Motion
Okay.
to.
Can I get a second? Thank you.
Thank you, Directors Creel and Rochelle, I'll take roll on this item. Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Creel?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yes.
Director Pinto?
Yes. Yes, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the discussion items and we'll start with item number 4, the Medical Executive Committee reports approval. This is a report that we received in closed session. Do we have any additional questions for staff about this report? We're open up for public comment. Okay, I'll open up now public comment for item number 4. Anyone wishing to speak on item number 4 online?
No hands on mine.
Okay, anyone in person? Okay, seeing none, I'll now close down the public comment and bring it back to the board for an appropriate motion for item number 4.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Directors Cox and Gallagher. I'll take roll on this item. Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Creel?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yeah.
Director Pinto?
Yes.
Attorney, yes.
Yes, okay. We'll now move on to item number 5. That's the Chief Financial Officer Monthly Finance Performance Updates. Julie, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. All right, good evening. I'm going to give you the financial report for August, both month to date and year to date. Month to date looks a little worse than you might expect because there is a one-time adjustment in here, so I'll explain a little bit about that. You know, this has been a tough year on us. Every month we've lost money at different rates, and every month it's been the same story about net revenue. And net revenue is not because we aren't charging for things appropriately. There's a lot of work that has been going into the charging and the revenue reimbursement capture. And you know, we're always looking at the opportunities that are being raised, and we have fixed some things. We have determined that some things are not chargeable to the payers. I mean, we still need to capture the charges, but they don't always end up in extra reimbursement. But that, I just want the folks that think that that goes unnoticed and not worked on, that is not accurate, that there has actually been a lot of work on reimbursement and revenue from a lot of different team members. A lot of our net revenue problem is volume. Our volumes are down this month alone, and August, July was the really slow month. August was a little bit of a pickup, but this month alone, our admissions were down by almost 19%. Our patient days followed, being down about 18%. We struggle when those volumes fall that low because expenses can't stay up with the loss of revenue. There's core staffing, as you all know. There's core processes and procedures that the hospital has to continue to do, whether the volume is 20 patients in the house or 30 patients in the house. So that does contribute significantly to our financial position. The one-time item that put a little extra dent, I'll say, in this month, it's about a $1.9 million impact, was that we did some old accounts receivable cleanup. Just in terms of, we continue to try to collect on old accounts, you know, well beyond what you think might be a collectible period. Industry standard says you usually will write those accounts off at 365 days as uncollectible. We have tried to take it out 2 years. we still continue to try to collect on those accounts, but we are now kind of following the industry standard of recognizing or reserving them off as though we might not collect on them, but we'll continue to seek some collection. It's gonna be a small percentage, but, you know, there is some, you know, additional work that we do trying to not leave any money on the table. So that, you know, part of this 4.3 or $4.5 million net revenue variance that you see this month, you can attribute to that one-time bad debt write-off. On the expense side, everything looks favorable because most of the expenses are favorable to a budget for the volume we projected, not the volume we're at. So it's good that we're saving some of that money, but as I was mentioning before, it's not the same proportion. For every dollar of revenue that we're not bringing in, we're not saving that same dollar level of expense. I think we're doing pretty good. We've had some, you know, great work by departments trying to be efficient with staffing to the best of your ability, be efficient with supplies to the best of your ability. Certainly think about the other expenses that are a little less volume driven, but certainly add to the overall expenses of the hospital. Let's go to the next slide. So on a year-to-date basis, you can see that we're, you know, have a loss of about 13 million, almost $14 million. This is a loss, again, where expenses are more than revenue. I mean, some of this expense is accrued expense for things that we know we have spent the money on and not yet paid the bills. You know, nevertheless, it is a true loss. It's not, the variance to budget also looks similarly big, but this is a true loss where it is saying our expenses are costing us more than our revenues. Next slide. I like to break down the net revenue variance a little bit further. This is a year-to-date picture, but it really goes to tell you that, you know, of about a $21 million variance to net patient revenue, about a third of it is related to the volume or the lack of volume. About a third of it or a quarter of it is related to just the mix of services or the payer mix that we serve. You know, the commercial payers pay higher rates than the government payers. So if and most days we do have a disproportional share of government payers versus commercial payers, then that's what I call the payer mix shift, meaning we're gonna do the same service, but we're gonna collect less for that service being provided. You know, we tend to run fairly consistently month over month, and I have some slides at the end that show the payer mix shift kind of month over month. However, it's when you kind of get in and look at the reimbursement for the month, you really do sometimes recognize that impact of how differently a little shift in the payer mix or this mix of services that we provide what kind of an impact it has, because we often don't see that so much on the expense side. We see that we're providing services, it's taking a certain amount of resource, and you know, we're doing a good job at providing those. This bad debt piece, this one-time write-off, I mean, that was 9% of our overall year-to-date loss for the month or for the year, our year-to-date proportion of this. You know, collections, it's another 0.25%, meaning, and it's kind of, you know, the catch-all after you've kind of ruled out what part of this is volume driven or mix driven. You have to say, well, the rest of this loss is that there's still money to be collected, that there's still opportunity. And I think this does speak to, are we charting everything that we do for the patient? Because if it's not in the chart, we can't bill for it. Are we, you know, capturing all the things that we can charge for? Because again, if they're not in the chart, we can't bill for it. And then once we get through all of that process, and assuming we're doing that pretty well, which I generally do assume, then, you know, it is on our back end to, you know, work on the collections. And we meet very regularly to work on the collections to see what's working well, where do we have denials, where do we have things that are just taking an extra long period of time to collect. And so, you know, with those things, we work on those things feverishly to improve them. Next slide. This is kind of the month-to-date view of the key statistics. So here's where you can see, you know, for the month, almost 19% short, or 67 fewer admissions that we had planned for, about 192 fewer patient days, because we had a fairly low length of stay at 3.12 days. The case mix, a little lower than budgeted, but not too far off. A very strong month with deliveries, 87. That's one of our stronger months. A lot of times averaging in the high 60s, low 70s. Surgery volume, pretty decent here. Off a few on the inpatient side, off a few more on the outpatient side. Primarily, you know, this is where the not having the cath lab volume falls in, as well as being down some orthopods and in podiatry with medical leave. So, and you know, the last couple months, we've also seen lower ER visits. It's still busy in the ER, still well over 90 visits per day, but lower than what we were seeing previously and what we budgeted. Next slide. Pretty similar story, just looking at it year to date. We started out the year a little bit stronger and then have had, you know, a slower summer, you know, quite frankly, a slower summer than what I'm used to seeing in my, I guess this is my third summer here. You know, generally the reasons and the variances pretty much fall the same, with deliveries being pretty much at budget, the non-ED visits being favorable to budget, and everything else falling a bit short. Next slide. Here's where I was talking about payer mix. This was a better month of payer mix on the inpatient side, in that our commercial payer mix was up at 17.2%. And that was a nice pickup from where we were in July, where we were at like 12.5%. We also had a pickup in Medicare this month. And so the offsets, or the ones that went down, were more in the managed Medi-Cal and Medi-Cal. That's a good thing, because those are the stronger payers on the inpatient side. On the outpatient side, we tend to be pretty consistent month over month here. We did have a little decline this month, down about 1.9% in the commercial, still at 23%. So that's not too far off. We kind of deviate between about 22 and 25% in a given month. A little bit of pickup in, or a little bit of decline in Medicare. And this is really where we saw the increase, mostly in managed Medi-Cal or our Alliance patients. And every month the Alliance and managed Medi-Cal is in the mid to high 40%. And that is the end of my slides, and I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Julie on this report? No?
Thank you.
There's no questions, and I will open up for public comment on this report. Rosini raised the hands online. We should speak on this item.
No hands online.
Anyone wishing to speak on this item first, please?
So I noticed on your, particularly on the slides related to volumes, we're looking at ER volumes that are down about 3.5% sitting over here. Outpatient surgery is down about, I think it's 1.5% or something like that. But then the inpatient surgeries, inpatient surgery is down about the same. Outpatient surgeries were down, it looked like over 26% compared to what had been projected. And so I have a couple of questions or comments here. You had mentioned that the cath lab was included in the outpatient surgery projections. And I'm just wondering if the predictions for the cath labs and volumes there were realistic and actually took into account the fact that there are 2 other cath labs in the area. So I would not expect that there would be a high volume when there are 2 already established cath labs. My other question too is what are we doing about these outpatient surgery volumes? As I mentioned in my public comments before, we run only 2 ORs right now. We've lost 2 orthopedic surgeons, a general surgeon, podiatry as well. Not even just our home podiatrists, but as well as the outpatient local podiatrists don't want to operate here anymore. So I asked you guys, and I encourage you to look into this, and I want to know what are we doing for that? What kind of financial investments are you making in the operating rooms? And how are you going to attract physicians and podiatrists to come back here to fill in that 26% loss?
Thank you. Anyone else speak on this item? Please, yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Shanta Hall. I am one of the tele nurses. I've been in this hospital for 2.5 years, so I need to do my therapy. But I just had a concern or a question about your statement in regards to supplies and cutting and staffing. We haven't been working with appropriate supplies. Like just the other day I worked and there was things needed to take care of my particular patient. We just didn't have. So we couldn't care for this patient appropriately. And staffing, we didn't have enough help to be in this one particular room. So saying that the cuts were made and are effective, I just would challenge you to look deeper into that because it's not effective. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Please.
Hello, my name is Bob Myers. I'm not affiliated with the hospital. I was born in 3 hospitals ago. So, I live here, own a home. Supported the nurses. Obviously, I'm not a big talker because my voice is shaking, but I really want to, show that there's a community support for these people that have been working so hard. And lately, my mom broke her kneecap about 2 months ago. And you're talking about the volumes down. You're talking about friends and family and neighbors, maybe not the best source of communication. I had all my friends, neighbors, coworkers said not to bring my mom here. So that form of communication seems to be very accurate. The volume, because I'm not an accountant, but volume's down because the public is telling everybody not to come because of all these concerns. So these are things that are happening out there, and not because of their fault, but because people have been coming here and they can tell it's deficient. So I guess my question is, our volume down. I think our public, my friends, my neighbors, my family are very educated and they're a good source of information. Because my question is, do you send your family here when they're in need? Because that would be one of my questions. You send your family, your daughter, your mom, your dad, grandparents. If you don't, that's concerning. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Laura. I would just like to back up what Dr. Nolan was saying too. We are losing surgeons because they get very frustrated. They come here because we don't have enough anesthesia. If there's not backup, when you go into surgery, you need to have certain supplies that there's at least 2 of. They drop them, you can't finish the surgery. That's not acceptable, of course. I had a patient the other day who was talking about her mother that came in here. They were being ruled out for a stroke. Our CAT scan was down, MRI was down. We did not have a carotid tech ultrasound, excuse me. And basically, they came here because they love our hospital. But some people will bypass Dominican to come here because we do give really good care, loving care. We're not just numbers. But people can only rely on doing that for so long, we're losing the trust of our community. Because we don't have the supplies, we don't have the doctors, the specialists. Those, and I know that as far as finances too, there's when I see family members and friends who have come here, they're not getting bills within a reasonable period of time. So I don't know how that's all working out, and what I was telling you about with the screws and with some of the other supplies that are not being charged for, we're still hearing that happen from the OR. So that has not been resolved. That's a lot of money that can go out from a really small package that's not being captured. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
My name is Pilar, and I'm one of the nurses in special procedures, and I am here to speak with you guys because this is our community and we provide services for our community. We used to have 24/7 GI services, and we lost that probably since COVID. We never went back to what it was before, when we had a GI doctor available for our community 24/7. Now, I don't know what is happening and why that can be renewed, but now we're bringing doctors from Palo Alto, which I, nothing against the doctors, but they're not part of our community. They're not available 24/7. We have emergencies, GIVs, you name it, and we have to hold those patients until an emergency GI doctor is available. We hold patients for 3 days, 4 days until that doctor is available. Now, we're bringing other doctors from the community, but these doctors have a GI lab established, whether it's Dominican or Sutter. So they're just here to fill in the blanks, and it's an organized mess because we don't have the staff, as was mentioned before. We don't have equipment. We suffer. We don't even have a system to be able to admit our patients in a computer. We have to do everything by hand. We have to write the same procedure like 5 times in different pieces of paper because they don't provide us with a system to at least put our patients in the computer and save some time that we can be dedicated to our patients. And I guess my question is, why can we, because we are special procedure, we bring a lot of money to this hospital. It's not just OR, it's not just ER. We do at least 21 to 25 patients Mondays and Wednesdays. And we do pain cases on Tuesdays. We do cardiac cases.
If you can please wrap up your comments, please.
I wish we can bring a community doctor that is 24/7 for our services.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak on this? No? Okay, I'll now close on the public comment. I'll bring it back to the board. If there's any comments or questions before we move on to item number 6, the CEO report.
Just a few comments. Again, I want to echo what I said before. I really appreciate it does take courage to come up to this podium. I hope you'll see it. Don't worry about it. We're all from this community here to work together. I do want to acknowledge, I made these comments before, particularly to these finance presentations. I'm a finance guy. I come from a finance background. I've done government presentations for nearly 30 years. And what I've really learned from in a lot of ways, in the way that Julian and staff are presented, they're very transparent about the numbers. They're saying, right, publishing where we're doing. So what it's giving us is data and information to react to. And so I appreciate the commentary about what you're seeing. But that underlying principle is there's a sense of transparency that I've come to really respect and admire, which isn't always the case. I've served on other boards when especially your finance folks don't want to be sharing as much as Julie would just flat out say things. I'm like, wow, I might be fired if I were to say that at my day job. But, and I didn't mean to call out specifically, there's a candor that comes through, and I just want to echo the reason we can have some commentary is because we're getting really transparent and accurate data, which in a time when you're understaffed and you've laid off positions and you haven't filled positions, you're still able to get us information very timely, not 3 months later. So I appreciate how you present your data. I appreciate the really intense finance committee meetings we have going deeper into these numbers. And I do appreciate the commentary about things that I'm feeling to help them round out my picture a little bit more too. So thank you.
Any other comments from the board before? There's no other comments. I'll move us on to item number 6, the Chief Executive Officer report.
Thank you, Chair. So I have an interesting, position here now as, there's been a lot of really good challenges to some of the things that we're doing, right? From those of you who have spoken, I really appreciate you challenging us and challenging me and my team, because there is a lot that we would like to be going better, right? There's a lot of things that we'd like to be doing better, that we'd like to have moving in a better direction. And much of my presentation is focused on a lot of what's going well. Julie talked a lot about the finances, which, I mean, that was her, that's what she does. She does the finance report. We all know how that's going. It's not going where we want it to go. It is part of why we don't have, you don't have all the things you need to take care of your patients at every moment. I apologize for that. That's certainly my job, is to make sure that you have everything that you need to take care of patients. And when that can't happen, I feel like I've failed on that. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's really important. And I want to spend a few minutes actually talking about some of the good things that are going on, because there are a lot of really good things. A lot of this that I'm going to present is a credit to those of you who are in this room who work here and work here every day, because you're doing a lot of really great things, and I want to celebrate those. We don't want to lose sight of the good things when they're happening. And so I want to talk about some of those. One of those is welcoming our new Chief Nursing Officer, Trina DeMar, who's sitting here to my right. If you work here, you know Trina already. She's been an amazing house supervisor for us for a number of years. She's also been a director here in a number of different areas. She's worked in pretty much every nursing area except scrubbing in as an OR nurse, but everything else she's done. And I've been sending them through. I've only sent her one so far, but from some of the people who have spoken here tonight, I've gotten emails back saying, great choice. So glad she's in this role. We trust her. We know her. So that is something I'm really excited about. I'm really excited to have her here and to have her with us, and excited about all the things that you're going to do. You want to? I know you're under the weather and you might have a cough.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't speak too long. But I heard a lot from you guys tonight, and I take that to heart, and we will work as a team to do better. And I'm happy to be here. It is a exciting time, I think, and time for some positive change.
Somebody earlier mentioned the branding, and we actually got an award for it. We didn't actually spend any money on the branding process, so there was one consultant. I want to show you on the screen there. The picture there is Nancy Gear, who's here. She's our Director of Marketing and Communications. She has some amazing skills on her own and did much of this on her own as a staff member here. She helped design some of the new branding on her own, then worked with Design Hall, which is a local design firm that donated their services to us. So when you see a city or a county, you know, the city of Santa Cruz recently went through a branding thing and then they backed off on it because they were spending $100,000 on it, and we didn't spend money on the design process of the new logo and the new branding for the district, the hospital, Coastal Healthcare, and the foundation, right? Bringing that all together. And that's what really Nancy got an award for, is the wonderful work that she did on this. So I wanted to recognize that and also to let them know. For those of you who can't read it, because it's at a weird angle, this award recognizes exceptional displays of healthcare branding that connect with their communities and convey their mission and dedication to healthcare excellence. And that's really what we were trying to do here, is really turn the page, show the community that we were turning the page and that we're back to our community roots and our dedication to healthcare excellence and to keeping the services here. Some operational updates. We did have a new supply chain director, Steve Bajari, who started on 8/25. We had a mention earlier of our new hospitalist group. So MCare started on September 15th. The physicians in that group are pictured up in the upper right there. So they're awesome. They started, so they're now half of the hospitalist program for the inpatient adults and the other half remains Kaiser. The MRI and CT scanner construction started earlier this week. So that is now underway and moving forward. That's funded by Measure N. And somebody else mentioned, I think Valerie left. Yeah, this sucked. We had a water line break in the in the ceiling of the MRI room. So this is part of why Measure N is so important, because it gives us capital to fix the infrastructure that hasn't been fixed in the 30 years of previous ownerships, right? To upgrade some of the all the infrastructure, all the stuff that you don't see because it's behind the walls and inside the ceilings. It's old. We need to replace the roof on the whole single story MOB. We need to replace the air conditioners above those. One of those leaked recently too, and we had to displace some of the payroll workers. All that sucks. And I'm sorry, and I wish I could fix it overnight. And we do have funding for a lot of that now through Measure N and plans to do so. And I wish we could do it all at once, but we can't. It takes time to do each of those things. So that's where we are there. I didn't get your name, but I appreciate that we have a community member who doesn't work here, who just wanted to come and support the workers and the hospital. That's awesome. Thank you for being here. We're clapping because we don't usually get people here, so that's great. And I want to talk exactly about what you talked about. There are definitely people who say, don't go to that hospital. That's not the hospital to go to. There's a better hospital somewhere else. And I'm here to say that tide is shifting. One of the reasons, so you were asking your question, did you take your family members here? So a couple months ago in May, my parents were here. They live in Massachusetts. They come out every May to hang out with their two grandkids, my kids, see in particular my son play baseball and my daughter dance. My dad was throwing batting practice to my son, didn't get behind the screen that is supposed to protect the batting practice pitcher, and my son's line drive hit my dad right in the face. So we went to urgent care right away. Urgent care, we were right down the street from the Sutter urgent care, so we went there first. And they were like, oh yeah, this is really bad. You actually have to go to the emergency room. And I said, okay, well, we're gonna go to Watsonville. And the urgent care doctor, to his credit, said, I love the Watsonville emergency department, it's great, but you have to go to Dominican because Dominican has the ENT that you need to see, and Watsonville doesn't have an ENT on staff, on call. And so that's a big thing that we're working on and that we need to work on. It's not just about, right, it is about supplies, but it's not just about supplies. It is about money, and it is about all of the things that we've struggled with in the past. And it's also about specialists. Most of the specialists are in North County. I was at a meeting earlier today where we had myself, and we had the CEO of the Sutter Hospital and the CEO of the Dominican Hospital and folks from Kaiser, and it was organized by the county. And the County Health Services Agency was convening that meeting to talk about, we need to do healthcare different. We need to think differently about healthcare in this community, because we can't be working against each other and make it through all the challenges that we have ahead. So what can we work on together? And we talked a lot about specialty gaps. And so Dr. Nolan, you talked a lot about what are we doing to get more specialists here so that we can do more outpatient surgery here. That's absolutely a key priority. And it's really hard to recruit people to this area. And there's a bunch of them 10 miles up the road, working at 2 other hospitals or 1.5 other hospitals, right? And so are there ways that we can share that so that this community has great surgical and subspecialty care as well, and that it's not all centered in North County? So that's why I came to this job, was to try to help fix some of that balance, because if you look at the maps of how well each part of the community is served, this part of the community is served poorer than other parts of our county and other parts of Ottawa County. So that's why we're here. But I want to talk about this. I heard very much what you said at a recent employee town hall. We need to work on a reputation. People don't want to come here. Then, a couple days later, and this was posted September 9th on Nextdoor. Anybody ever go on Nextdoor? Right?
Try not to.
People just, it's just people complaining, right? But I had 3 people within the span of like an hour send me this Nextdoor post, which reads, and I'll read most of it. Had to go to Watsonville Hospital emergency last night. Very busy. Great conversations with fellow folks there waiting for care. Triage nurse was very professional and excellent communicator. Doctor very knowledgeable, compassionate, and great sense of humor. Care nurse very confident in her work and again comforting conversationalist. Only issue was the 2 guards at the front door who asked you the purpose of your visit. I'm dying was my response, and so they checked me right through. Hope you don't need to go there, but if you do, expect excellent medical care. And so that was really cool and refreshing to see on Nextdoor, because that's unprompted, right? That's somebody just going there without even nobody asking them to do so. But then you're like, all right, well, the comment section is going to be brutal, right? It's not. It's amazing. I just put it on here because, so I crossed out everybody's names, even though it's a public forum. I've had very good experiences there. Extremely excellent care at Watsonville Hospital in all areas. Sadly, I can't say the same for past experiences of myself and others at, I redacted it someplace else.
I'm the Romanican.
Have been to both other hospital and Watsonville Community Hospital ERs and hospitals over the last 18 months. Much prefer Watsonville. Added plus for us is Kaiser Hospital physicians are on staff in both the ER and the hospital. That's partially true, which is great for us since we're Kaiser members. Another person said we had to go to the Watsonville ER a year ago and everyone was wonderful, great, compassionate care. It went on. My several experiences there have all been quite positive. We're fortunate having all those great medical pros nearby when needed. That's all of you. I love our hospital, she said. June, did you hear that part? I love our hospital, this person said. If I have to stay for any amount of time, I would go to Watsonville. Some other place has the smallest unprivate rooms and you have to share the bathroom, not at Watsonville, big spacious rooms with toilet, sink, and shower. Another person said, I agree, my mom nearly died 4 weeks ago. They saved her, gave her excellent care in the ER while she was admitted. No complaints about the care she received. And I think this is my last one, but it kept going. These were all the comments. I had 2 very good experiences in the ER there with my mom, who was in her 90s and had dementia. Another says, totally agree, wonderful staff and work. And then the last one I've just found funny, it's not about the care at the hospital, but did I miss something here? I read all the posts grading Watsonville Hospital and it's all positive input. Wow, when has that happened? When has that ever happened on any subject on Nextdoor? I would always choose Watsonville Hospital based on experience at both hospitals in our county. So despite all of the stuff that y'all have to deal with delays in supplies coming in, with wishing that we had more specialists on staff and all that, y'all take amazing care of people. And people are noticing it, and people are talking to their neighbors about it. And so there is that that's still there in the community of people thinking this is not the hospital to go to. And I am submitting today that it's starting to change, and that's because of all you doing such a wonderful job. Those are anecdotes. I also have data to prove that point, to support that point. The green, this is all our data. So these are patient experience data. The green bar is our data from 2022 and the blue bars are our data from 23 and 24. This is on a website called calhospitalcompare.org where you can look up the patient experience scores of all the hospitals in California, at least all the ones that have data. Laura, I can send you this. I see you send, I can send this out. You can take a picture too if you want, but you know, I can send you a better version. Just about all of them have gone out, which is awesome. This is the tremendous work that has been done. And I want to, you know, credit the board, right? The board has been helping oversee this hospital for the last 2+ years. And really that's like, the green is like pre-healthcare district and the blue is post-healthcare district, right? So that's a really big deal for all of those to be going up. The next slide, a little hard to read, but you can no, not that one, this one. Don't need to read the numbers, but you can kind of squint and look at the colors, right? Because the left is the hospitals that are performing better and the right into the red are the hospitals that are performing worse. Again, data just from Cal Hospital compare.org, you can pull this yourself. We are the preferred hospital by patient experience scores in Santa Cruz County. And the only ones in Monterey County are the wicked rich ones, right? I mean, let's just be honest, right? Chomp and Salinas make tens and tens of millions of dollars a year.
Your boss would show.
And they can afford bells and whistles and they probably give people gifts when they come into, I don't know what they do. They've got slightly better scores and not even in every category, in most of the categories, but not every category. But you look at all the other hospitals and the state average and we're kicking their butts. And so I really appreciate you all on doing that. And let's spread that word, right? Let's let your neighbors and your family members who think this is not the hospital to go to know that this is the hospital to go to. Yeah. Google says the same thing. So the Google stars rating, we've had over 1,000 people rate us on Google, right, out of 5 stars. We're on the left at 4.4. We're tied with Sutter Maternity and Surgery Center, which is like just people who go there to have a baby or to have a surgery that they've scheduled, right? So they generally get really good scores. And the others that have emergency departments where people are in the hospital, not necessarily because they want to be, but because they have to be, we're beating all of that. So that was all the good stuff. My last slide was more of an educational one to let everybody know what's going on with this. So this is the Rural Health Transformation Program. So we've received a number of emails from people being like, hey, make sure you're applying for this. That's not where it's at right now. So what's happening is there's $50 billion. The Republicans will tell you this is a great thing. They're giving $50 billion to federal programs. Bernie Sanders is the one who actually tells the truth. He's like, well, you're given $50 billion because you took $150 billion away. So that's really the true story, right? Because they're cutting Medicaid and they're cutting everything else. So they're giving a little bit back and they're going to redistribute it probably to different states other than ours. The first $25 billion does get evenly distributed to the states. Doesn't really help California all that much since we're so much bigger. But our state will get $100 million a year for 5 years as part of this program. The other half of the $50 billion will get allocated based on each state's application. So we, Watsonville Community Hospital, Pajaro Valley Healthcare District, have been in communication closely with the state and have helped provide input into what their application is going to look like. Because we want to make sure that we're on this list if and when the state of California gets some of this money. So that's where we're at right now. If the state gets some of that that sort of discretionary 25 billion, then there might be an application process for each of the rural hospitals, at which point we'll be applying, right? We'll be putting our hat in the ring. We'll be talking to our elected officials about how important this is. We've already talked to our local elected officials at the state level about this, about making sure that our name is on this list when it becomes available. In truth, for the whole state of California, it's not a lot of funding, even in the best case scenario. So this ain't gonna save us on its own. But I wanted everybody to know sort of how this program works and that we're involved in it and that we're on top of it. Okay, that's my whole presentation. I'm happy to see questions.
Any questions for Steve before I open up for public comments from the board? Okay, Rosie, I'll open up for public comment now on this presentation on item number 6. Anyone online wishing to speak on this item?
Mary, you're.
Oh, okay. Has, is there any conversation at all on at what point do you stop pouring money into the cath lab? Because like right now you're paying for that equipment and it's not being used. You have staff that aren't doing procedures. And like Dr. Nolan said, there's other cath labs nearby. And I was on those wonderful things, nice things that the people said. Not one of them said, go to Watsonville, they have the best equipment or the fastest CT or the best cath lab or whatever. You know, it was all about how the staff took care of them. And if you could put some of that cath lab money into what the nurses are asking for, into the simple, inexpensive things that we need on the front lines. Like when my mom was in the hospital, she said she got the best care ever because the nursing aide brought her a warm blanket and an extra pillow. That's what they wanted to see. And as you've heard me talk about this before, and I'm on tape 3 times trying to tell you about that cath lab. In my 35 years, the cath lab, even when it was running, it was never a big money making machine. I understand that it could be, and that it would be great if it was, and I would love it, you know, to have patients coming in and making the money and getting there. But is that really, really going to happen? It hasn't happened in the 35 years that I've worked there. So I'm just wondering if you guys ever think, is there a limit as to how far you're willing to go? And just throwing that idea out there. And thank you for everything. That's it.
Thank you. Rosie, any other raised hands online?
No, I don't know, like.
Okay. Anyone in person wishing to speak on this report? Please.
It's just a quick question.
You can approach the podium, and I'll take questions at the end, so I'll let everyone else speak as well after the question.
Steve, can you answer this? Who determines whether California gets that money in that application? Is that like federal Congress? Is it Health and Human Services? Is it a special committee formed by that bill? That's the.
Good. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ellie Trolley, I'm a radiology director, here at the hospital, and community member. And I'm very nervous because I only have 2 minutes and I like to ramble. But I'm here not just as a director, I want to speak actually as a director and also as a community member, a staff member, and I was debating whether I wanted to say anything or not, but I am here. So to the nursing staff and everybody that works here, I hear you, and I appreciate you guys being here and making your voices heard. As a community member, you guys have supported my family. I think you guys all know my parents. By name, and they know you guys by name as well. So I appreciate the care that you guys have provided to my parents. And I agree with Mary. Mary is one of my staff members. You guys do provide that care and that extra touch that it won't be found in another place. And I know because, to everyone's point, we have had some equipment that has not been always functional and has also affected my family. And because of that, that's how I see my department. When I see my department that, hey, you know what, my mom needed a but I couldn't break her, so I had to teach someone else. It hurts me because not only is she my mother, but I'm the director of the department. So it affects me greatly as a community member, as a family member, as a staff member. But I do want to say this, at least as I speak as a director, that is really what I bring to my department every time that I see someone that needs something, how can we meet it? I am so grateful to all of you because you guys are all part of the community. Because of that, we were able to get this measure and money. And because of that, we are now able to take care of not just my mom, but everybody else's. And that's in the near future. It's coming up and I'm excited for the future that we have.
Thank
I
you.
wanted to say that.
Good evening, my name is Greg Boney, I'm working in the surgery department here. Just the comments about, Steve talking about all the good comments we heard about the hospital, which is great. But I want you guys to realize now, all your employees, I mean, really are so mystified what's going on with this place. But they still put on that great face for the community because they are the community. Our president of our union is here right now, and he's been speaking to some of the members. And he's asking them, well, how long have you been here? 25, 27, 34, 20, 19. What makes you guys stay here? The community. It's about the community. You know, we hear about the community. So I just want you guys to understand that we as employees here, I don't want to say we can't stand the place, but we're very, very mystified with what's going on here. I've been doing this for 43 years, and this is really a mystery to me. But you know, we come here to work every day and we're so excited to help the community, regardless of what's going on with our labor stuff and everything else. You know, we want to help the community, and that's, you guys have got to understand that all of our effort is put into the community because we don't have resources to do what we want with our departments. All of us do. So I hope you guys can give us the credit, give the people here the credit for doing this, because it's really hard to put on that great face when you know you're coming to Watsonville again, you know, to work. And you come in the door, you walk in the door and you're like, okay, we're here with the community, we help them. And that's what we do. So I hope you guys understand that. I hope you guys realize how important that is for this place to keep it alive. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll keep it really brief, I promise.
It's a promise.
I promise. Knowing what's going on is huge, because otherwise we're wondering and we're worrying. And then gaps get filled in, so the communication, there's been a lot of communication breakdown. So we can just hear more of where the positive steps have been going on a regular basis, that'd be very helpful. Also, I wanted to say my husband was brought here, I brought him here to the ER a couple of months ago, and he got fabulous care, so it's important to kind of balance out the other frustration pieces too. So, and I felt very good about him coming here, and Dr. Nolan took awesome care of it. So anyway, that's it, but please tell us what's going on. We need to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Please, Julie. Yeah.
I just kind of want to weigh in on the same thing. I live up in Santa Cruz and I actually am a Kaiser patient. When I was very sick, I tried the route of going to urgent care because I thought it was something that could be solved in urgent care. First time it wasn't solved, second time I went back and the doctor, you know, tried a little bit more course of action. And the first words he said to me is like, if this doesn't work, go to Watsonville ER. And I did. You know, I bypassed other places and I would have done it even if he hadn't told me. I ended up in ER on a day that was extremely busy, so I had to wait. I ended up in a hallway bed. I didn't, you know, use my position to get a better bed or anything like that. And I got fabulous care. I finally got through the issue I had. You know, I would tell all my friends and neighbors, and I would certainly bring my family here. I've even, you know, done that for procedures where I had to go get a special authorization from Kaiser to come here versus going to something closer to my house, because I believe in this place and I believe in all of you.
I'm sorry, any other comments from the board before I move on to item number 7, please? So, Marcus.
Thank you, Steve, for, I was feeling a little down even before today, before the meeting today, just with all the noise. The freaking frustration, it's kind of crazy that comes out. You're reading this morning, Dr. Nolan, you asked the question about how are they going to decide. There's one publication that basically says You know, if the state is conforming with MAGA policies, then they'll get more money. And that, we know that was not the answer, but this energy so-called stated by CMS, which is, used to be a well-respected, perhaps, organization running our healthcare, like, it's just waking up to that news and reading that, set my day off. And I think I was already in a sour mood anyways, just because it's feels like it's been a decade since November, of just constant attacks and crazy and, to your point, Tony, I'm gonna go on a rant because I don't do this very often. You're right, it's the degradation, the evolution of our media that's allowed healthcare in the country to be freaking dismantled. And everybody's like, oh, that's okay, right? Like, I've got family members saying, I don't understand, that's probably okay, right? Like, no, this is horrible. And the fact that, now we have military showing up in cities and everybody's like, that's okay, right? Like, it's not okay, this is not okay, this is crazy, this is insane what's going on. And it's so sad that collectively, like, we're that frog in that pot, we've been boiled, like, oh, wow, this is hot water now, right? Like, it's so frustrating, and yet I come here and I feel that I've been in this moment before where I come in a grumpy mood because of my day job or something else going on, I'm dealing with FEMA or whatever it might be. And it's this crazy, wonderful, blessed place that I'm born and raised in this community, and I love this community, it's always that. But I come to these meetings thinking this is gonna be a bad meeting, and it's the way you are all committed to this, you're losing staff, you're losing resources, we're losing staff, but everybody's here bringing the right spirit, and that I feel like I leave here in a weird, strange upward movement and feeling of like, we can do it, we will do it, and I know we will, because it's always Watsonville, that's what Watsonville does, we're always on the attack, we're always getting beat down, and we keep thriving and pushing through it, whether it was, cannery strikes way back in the day when I was in high school, I was trying to figure out what that was, exactly. It's what Watsonville does, we get through it, and often people in the North County don't even understand the struggle that we have, and they're 10 miles away and they don't understand that, so that's my rant, it's really frustrating, but it's knowing that we will work together to get through this. We are elected officials, we're paying nothing, putting our time and energy to make sure that this community resource and treasure is here for another 100 years and not sold out to some for-profit and bleed all our cash out. And we won't let that happen. But this is a season where it's a tough moment for us. It's a season where people are choosing maybe not to come here because they're afraid to be on the record. And so our volumes are dropping. We didn't expect it. It's a really tough season for us. And I know I've been in finance for a long time, and there were tough seasons to get through it. We just inherited the hospital with, I'll say, with no cash. We bought this hospital and there was no cash in the books. So we didn't have any margin of error, and we had a really good plan. We solved for a $25 million annual loss. And last year we were going to break even, we're unbelievable, right? We got half in towards the end of the year. I mean, who expected that to happen and put our building behind us? I think I'm done.
Are you sure?
I should be sure. The takeaway is I am so inspired by the way in which everybody's approaching the podium here and bringing their passion and their commitment to, I want better, we need better, because it's for serving the community. It's not about me, it's for serving the community. I want to say thank you for all the comments and thank you for reminding me that there's a lot of good stuff happening.
Please.
I've only been in this position for 3 days. But I do want to say that I think your concerns are not falling on deaf ears. And I want you all to know that, again, I've only been here for 3 days, but I feel very confident in the leadership team that they are working very hard to address those concerns. We are in a tough position, but I think that they're working very hard to make some positive change. And so I am hopeful that we will see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We just need everybody to hang in there and continue to work together as you've always done.
Any other comments from board or Steve?
So I'm able to answer one of the questions that
yes.
came up, if that's okay, and that was Dr. Nolan's question. So it's CMS, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, that is the applications will go to. We have been we've been advised by people who are in the know in Washington DC not to reach out and lobby CMS because they already don't like California and they don't want to hear from us.
Okay, I have some comments that I want to make, for the past two reports, if there's nothing else, okay. So first off, kind of backtracking a little bit, Nancy, congratulations, and congratulations on your retirement. As a marketing person as well, communications person, I know how hard it is to do your job with no money. And so just thank you for everything that you've done since you've gotten here, really, and congratulations on your retirement. I know we have you for another couple months, so we'll continue to squeeze as much juice out of that as much as we can. I know that. Trina, welcome to the team. I know you've been here for a long time already, but I'm really happy that you're coming in and you understand the challenge that's before you, and the comments I know come from the bottom of your heart for our staff.
Thank you.
And then the comments from social media, which I think that the constant, and also what I hear just out in the community, the constant that I hear about Watsonville Community Hospital is the care and the people that work at Watsonville Community Hospital, right? They never say it's like, oh, I went there and they had this amazing machine, you know? It's not about that, or they had like the best catheters. Yeah, it's none of that sort of stuff, right? It's always the people. And so that's the constant in these conversations, is the people at Watsonville Community Hospital. And I think that the constant in terms of the issue since we've been in charge here has just been the cash in order to get all of you the tools that you need to actually do the job that you guys are very passionate with, to serve the people, right? And so to Marcus's point, I won't go on a rant. That was going to be our number one challenge from the day that we took over the hospital back in 2022. We knew that times were going to get very difficult, and as challenging as it was when we first started, we knew that it would get even more challenging before we were to turn it fully around. And that was in the best case scenario. Obviously, the last, I want to say 10 to 12 months have shown that it has not been the best case scenario, with a lot of different things that we've talked about, from like Marcus mentioned, the cyber attack, to some of our surgeons leaving, to our hospitalist group just tucking tail and running at the moment they had to, and then everything that has happened in terms of low volumes, both because of not having the coverage that we need, and then also because of everything that's happening at the federal level right now with immigration in our community, and the fears that that's invoking in our community members that depend on this hospital. And so just want to say, I know I didn't speak on, the concerns that were brought up on the last presentation, but I wanted to make sure that I voice, as a board chair, that I hear every single one of your concerns and all of your comments. And we are trying to turn this hospital around, and I feel like we're making progress, and sometimes it can feel like you're dragging a boulder behind you and trying to push a boulder up in front of you, right, at times. And so I just want to acknowledge that the constant and all of the good things that we hear about this hospital is the people, and the constant that we hear about the challenges is there's not enough resources. And as someone who's lived here in Watsonville and has worked in newspapers and has now worked in social services and communication, that is the story of Watsonville, is continuing to be resilient while not having the resources that you need in order to be successful, right? So I want to change that, and our goal as a board and administration is to change that, so that we can flip that script, and so we can be the center of healthcare in this region. And that's our goal, and we're trying to get there. I do want to end this, and we have a whole nother meeting to do after this. So, but I do want to give just a story of both, like, that kind of encapsulates all of this. So I grew up here in Watsonville. I grew up on Rodriguez Street. My grandpa's house there, lived there for about the first 3 years when I first came over from Mexico to the United States. And so a lot of my mom's family still lives here in Watsonville. And one of my cousins, about 3 to 4 months ago, and I didn't tell this to Steve because I was like, he has enough on his plate, I'm not going to tell him anything. My cousin came in and he really had a seriously injured finger, and he had to have some sort of procedure done with a scalpel on his finger. And they told him, so we're going to have to actually have some sort of care on your finger done, but we don't have anesthesiology coverage. And so it's gonna hurt like hell unless you want to check out and go to another hospital. And he's like, well, I'm already here. And so let's do this. And so the care was amazing. The person who did the care was amazing. The people who were amazing, but of course the resources weren't there to actually follow through all the way, right? And so like, we know this as a board, we know this as a staff, we know this. These are things that as a board chair, Steve and I talk about on a constant basis of like, we understand the challenges, we understand how difficult it is to meet all of these challenges in the situation that we're in right now, even back in 2022, from when we started with the clean slate, we understand this. And that doesn't make it okay. That just makes us, for me at least, it makes me strive to do more that I can than I'm already doing right now, so that we can get to the point where I mean it. I want this hospital to be the center of healthcare in our community and our region. So we're making progress, not as fast as we want it to go, but we're making progress, and just appreciate all of you for your continued commitment, not to the hospital or to us or to the administration, but to the community and the people you serve. It really is that. So just thank you for everything. And thank you to the staff for, I don't think at any other hospital or even any local government agency, you will find this amount of transparency, and like for the board chair saying like, yeah, we're acknowledging we're not in the position we want to be, but this is, I think, like what makes this board special is all of us feel very connected to this hospital, all for different reasons, right? And we're all trying to turn this thing around as quickly as possible. And even in the best case scenario, we knew that this was gonna take a little while and take a lot of effort. So just thank you all for being here today. And I think like Marcus said, we're just excited to see you here. Like we usually don't get a lot of visitors at these meetings. And so just thank you, like continue to show up, continue to light a fire under our butts, and continue to tell us what needs to change, right? That's all really good. And we'll work as hard as we can to try to move on those things. So just thank you. If there's no other board comments, I'll move us on to item number 7, because I know we still have, like I said, one other board meeting to get to. So move on to item number 7. That's the Watsonville Community Hospital Finance and Audit Committee removals and appointments. I believe, Julie.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, as many of you know, Matt Cobran just left employment at Watsonville back in June. Matt Co, 34 awesome years here, and tremendous work. And one of his jobs was to be on the finance committee that meets the day before the board meeting. And he was a very active member of our finance committee meeting, our accounts payable distribution team, everything, to make things happen at this hospital. And so we definitely want to say thank you to Matt Co for serving. Unfortunately, with him not here, we have to remove him from our finance committee and reappoint or request approval from the board. So we discussed this yesterday at the finance committee about replacing Matt Co's position on the finance committee with our new revenue cycle director, Mike Russell. I've worked with Mike previously, and he's been on board here for about 2 months. He came in July. He's hit the ground running, working on many revenue cycle related projects, some of the scheduling challenges we've had with radiology. There's just a lot of activities that he has his hands in, and he's very committed to helping enhance our financial performance here. And so I would like to recommend and ask for approval from the board to replace Matt Co with Mike Russell.
Do we have any questions for Julie or for the finance committee on the appointment and the removal? Okay, then I do have to open up to public comment on this item. So anyone wishing to speak on item number 7 online? Anyone wishing to speak on this item in person? Okay, seeing none, I'll close in the public comment, and I will bring it back to the board for an appropriate motion and comments.
I'll move approval to say, it was impressive to get from Mike in the hallway the first time I met him. Almost like he was born here, like he's here and cares. He's not just a finance person with revenue experience. He's very engaged in doing right by this community. I was really impressed that this came out organically. So I was really excited that you were able to steal him, get him up here. and he'll be a tremendous asset to our finance committee. So I move staff's recommendation.
I second, and also have had contact with Mike and I'm very impressed. And relieved.
Okay, thank you, Director Pimentel and Gallagher. I'll please roll this item. Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Freeland?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yes.
Director Pimentel?
Yes.
And Attorney.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to item number 8, it's the 2026 budget update. Julie, whenever you're ready.
Okay, this is a pretty high level budget update on 2026. I'm gonna show you some preliminary numbers. They are going to change. They're really basically a first look at the base budget, meaning, kind of some ongoing operations, not new initiatives, not things that, we don't currently do now. And they're projections that still need a lot of scrubbing. So honestly, they're going to look probably more favorable to you than you would expect them to look at this point. Some of the initiatives I will just highlight at the end, kind of what we're looking at, but they're not included in any of these numbers or volume projections. We also have some high-level assumptions around the hospital quality assurance fee program. It's been modeled, but it's currently under review for approval. We probably won't see if it's going to be approved until at the earliest December. So we've modeled it at a little bit lesser rate, but kind of the spectrum of what could happen is 0 to 100. And we're hoping for closer to the 100 because the 0 would change numbers very different. And then we also have the impact of the HR1 budget bill, and while we have some high level estimates of how that's going to negatively impact us, those also are not in these numbers. We can go to the next slide. This is pretty small, and I think we talked about what the hospital volumes are now, and I would just I've shared this at previous board meetings, but basically we are taking a very conservative approach to the volume, because we looked at where the year to date was. We looked at how volumes fell, especially in the summer, especially after the budget bill was introduced and passed that spoke of changes that could affect Medi-Cal recipients. And we just decided we would rather go in conservatively with what the volume numbers are so as not to overestimate volume. So we are expecting about a 10% reduction in admissions. We are expecting or budgeting, for fewer outpatient visits than we've seen by about 2%. The one place where we do kind of expect that the volume is still growing, it has been in the non-emergency visits where people are coming in for radiology procedures, lab work. That has been pretty constant through all the other volume fluctuation that we've seen. We've also had a pretty strong year in deliveries, so we are, anticipating that's a very strong service for us that we will continue, and we've got about a 3% volume increase there. We can go to the next slide. These numbers are even hard for me to read, so I will speak to them off of my sheet here. Generally speaking on the base revenue, I'm not going to read you all the numbers because they're going to change. What I'm going to highlight here is that the net revenue looks strong because this is where we kind of factor in what we might get from those hospital quality assurance fees, as well as our DSH payments. Our DSH payments we're actually expecting to go down by about 50%. This has been kind of an ongoing thing for years where they threaten cuts and reductions to DSH, and then it gets delayed a year and we get a little bit of a reprieve. We try to go in budgeting conservatively for kind of worst case scenario. On the quality assurance fees, worst case scenario would be a very bleak number. We would still have the current QAF 8 program that has some payments in 26, but mostly what bumps this number up currently is the QAF 9. As modeled, it's a significant increase to us over QAF 8, but again, it's not approved. So we've modeled that we think something will be approved, but we're going to model it at 75% versus 100%. And what's not in these numbers is any impact of HR one budget bill. Basically, overall, we're anticipating about a 3% increase to our charges. It won't be every charge going by 3%. We look very strategically at how we do our charge increases. We look at what our competitors are paying, what our contracts will actually pay us for those services, what's reasonable and rational, and then we spread that charge increase. I've already talked about the volume changes, and just to let you know that with our current assumptions, there's about 18, almost $19 million worth of QAF money from the current QAF 8 program that will come in, but there's another 18.5 million that is the unapproved, we're keeping our fingers crossed money. On the expense side, this is very high level. All these numbers will change by the time we're done with this. We tend to budget our salaries and our supplies, based on the budgets that we have developed down to the department level in terms of what services we plan to offer. And much like we had in the other conversation, if we can meet volumes, the expense versus the revenue stays a lot more in sync. When we don't meet the volumes, most of our staffing is pretty core staffing, and it doesn't necessarily shrink at the same rate. We are expecting, continued increases in our professional fees. We've seen a significant number of those over the past year. And we will also continue to look at where we can put money into the facility in, repairs and maintenance and things that we know there's been many years of deferred maintenance. And, where we don't have all the numbers completely figured out yet, we've at least accounted for about a 3% inflation. It's kind of runs anywhere from 2 to 3.5% inflation rate, and kind of what our base run rate has been year over year. One of the places where we're going to have a significant increase is in benefits. We have already worked with our benefits broker. In fact, we have open enrollment starting in a couple of weeks. And it's no surprise, because I've seen this in the Wall Street Journal and heard it elsewhere. Benefits are going up in double digits across the nation, and ours are going up 14.2%. So while we continue to invest heavily in the benefits because they are for our employees and their families, that is a significant increase for us to absorb during these challenging times. Oh, sorry, you can skip 2 slides ahead because I just spoke to that one. So keep going. So I gave you, just because there were so many numbers to show, kind of revenue on one side, expenses on one side. What that boils down to, and I told you at the beginning, it looks kind of favorable to see, well, there's a $5 million EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation. But that 5 million, there's a lot of things that once we start to factor in the budget bill and some of the other expenditures coming our way, is going to bring that much closer to a break-even point, or potentially less than break-even. Next slide. This is there's a lot of work to go on in the next month or so, but these are some of the initiatives that we are going to be drilling into, putting numbers around, starting to, really kind of rationalize what should be in the budget. So from the cath lab, which came up in multiple of the discussion points, we did a very detailed pro forma on the cath lab that was vetted with all the physicians that were expected to operate in the cath lab at the time that the pro forma was done, down to the types of procedures they expected to do, a ramp up strategy, and everything. But we realized, it took longer to get the cath lab to the point where it could open. Some of those physicians have left, things have changed. So the whole pro forma over the cath lab is getting kind of a fresh review, assumptions, volumes, expenses, everything. We do recognize that there's also some potential to do interventional radiology procedures in there. So we will kind of look into what that might look like. With the new MRI and CT, there's gonna be efficiencies, there's gonna be, the ability to have more volume running through there with more stable and faster equipment. So we will be doing some, work with Nellie and team to identify what those efficiencies and improvements could, render in terms of additional volume. There will be additional expense. There's always, maintenance agreements and service agreements that go with these things, but there will be, some additional plus side to that. The budget bill, HR 1, we have presented numbers previously. We've gone back and kind of scrubbed those numbers with the latest and greatest assumptions that we get. A lot of assumptions we get from our managed Medi-Cal partner, the Alliance, because they have a good pulse on what they expect to see over the next 3 years or so in terms of loss of membership as different rules kind of come into play and change who's eligible for Medi-Cal. So we've actually increased the expected impact of that loss to somewhere between 4.2 and $5.6 million just in 2026. And that is not talking about the quality assurance fee dollars I was just talking about. That's just talking about the revenue that comes in from serving patients and them expecting to see a decline in the enrolled membership. We've got a new ortho who is has a signed contract. We're expecting her sometime in about the December timeframe. So while we've had some holes in ortho coverage and done fewer procedures over the course of this year, we expect to be able to grow that practice back with a new ortho joining the CHP group. We put a pause this year on pediatric admissions. We're not sure that we're gonna undo that pause. We're gonna relook at it, see if it makes sense or some variation of that makes sense. We've got new intergovernmental transfer. These are similar to the QUAC where we pay in to the state, which sends it up to the federal government. And then when the money comes back, it usually about doubles in size and we get more back for our initial payment. So we have signed up and been working to get into a couple of programs. One that, we would pay in the money late this year to get it back in early February in 26. And then another one where we pay in April to get some more back in June. And then these are annual programs, so you kind of try to parlay them into increasing in size as you go forward. So, an initial 600,000 can potentially bring us back 1.3 million. We turn around and invest that with a little bit more money of 2 million to get back 4. So it's another funding source for us to help us address all the myriad of needs that we've discussed today. We are, I think I mentioned before, going to put some additional money in for repairs and maintenance budget. We are doing things right now like the LED light project to save on electricity. We've got the 340B program up and running, and Jennifer's been working hard to get all the right ducks in a row and maximize what we're doing out of that. And that's got growth potential because, that first year is always work to get all the pieces in place. So there's a lot of good things in the budget. There's some negative things. And I'll just close by saying there's still a lot of work to do, and we'll be bringing back a more detailed view of the budget next month.
Okay, any questions for Julie about this report before I open it up for public comment? Okay, we'll open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this item online?
No hands raised online.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak on this item personally? Okay, so I'll close down the public comment for this item and I will move us to item number 9. Thank you, Julie, for the report.
So I think I have number 9.
Yeah, you're a busy person.
Busy person today. This one will be a much faster, item. When we purchased the property, last year, we assumed certain, arrangements because the hospital is a co-tenant with the district. And so as we had to assume the way the prior lease was written, we assumed that kind of structure. And part of that structure we're still working with MPT was that we paid $3 million in rent every year, $250,000 a month. As the property transitioned, the hospital, I gotta look at my notes and think about to say this correctly because it gets confusing. But we basically, as the hospital, we continue to own it, but we assign our rights to the district. And so by the virtue of the way this is set up, we would still pay the district $3 million. So since we would rather not pay the district $3 million while we are still struggling financially, we sought what's called a forbearance. And what that does is it basically waives our needing to pay the district, which is ourselves, the $3 million. And there had also been a letter of credit that we had previously with MPT for $2.6 million. That's basically like a security deposit. And so we asked for a waiver of that so that we don't need to keep $2.6 million locked away in a bank. And so we did this last year in October, and when you set up an agreement like this to basically not pay rent for a year and to waive the security deposit, that's good for a year. So we are coming back year 2 to ask for the same thing. And I am representing the hospital, Steve is representing the district, and we are basically what the agreement says is that every 12 months, we will reassess the financial performance in this time frame. We will reassess whether to resume payments or to request further forbearance. And at this point, we are respectfully requesting further forbearance. Very well said.
Julie,
Go
if I
ahead.
could just add one thing, this is Noelle. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, yes.
So because this is an agreement between the district and the hospital corporation, we recommended that the hospital corporation have its own counsel to review this on behalf of the hospital corporation. And so that was done by Don Bowie, so that BBK is not looking at it from both sides.
Yes, thank you for adding that.
Sure.
And we want to add to it as a second.
Yeah. Any questions about this very unique setup that we have and that we've engaged in to save this hospital? Any questions for Julie or for Noelle as well? Before I go out to public comment on it?
A comment that, part of the reason why would the hospital pay the district rent? Well, part of the reason is, and the district is Coastal Healthcare Partners that lives in the district as a cost unit. So this was, originally when we set this up, it's a way of making sure we can run both the systems, the hospital and the district, which is Coastal Health Partners, make those both run efficiently and be well funded. So that's why the hospital would make a payment to the district. It's all in-house, money from one pocket to another in the end, but we are 2 separate legal entities, so that's why the structure is set up the way it is.
I don't know if you made more sense for me or if you can.
If my mom were here, and she might be watching, she would say, why the heck is the hospital paying the district any money at all? Right? It's because the hospital has costs that are part of the whole system. Yes, and it's a way of making sure they're both funded.
And the MPT lease still exists in its form, but the district now is the landlord and the hospital corporation is the tenant.
Any questions? No, okay,
I do.
I'll go to public comment and yeah, no problem. I'm gonna first open up the public comment for folks online. Anyone wishing to speak on this item? With us online? Yes, seeing none, so I'll open up for comment, and if you do have just questions, then after everyone speaks, then we'll come back and try to answer the question. No, go ahead and.
Okay. So my question is just on the forbearance, does the forbearance mean that we never have to pay back that money, or is it a loan? And I'm asking this for recording. Andrews. And I'm hearing you guys are talking about it, so I figured I'd.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, I'll close down the public comment, and Noel and Julie, because Steve cannot speak on this. Can you help us with that question in terms of paying back the loan? I don't think that's the right way of looking at it, but I'm also not a legal expert.
I'll start and let, Noel correct me if I say anything wrong. This is not a loan, we are deferring or pausing rental payments, and I think that ultimately the decision can be made at a later date as to whether we need to pay that back. Again, as Marcus kind of pointed out, it's with this, in a sense, the same entity. The hospital really subsidizes the work of the district. So I don't believe it's not something that we need to be recording a liability on the books because we have a future payment that we need to make.
Correct. I look at it as, so a forbearance is a temporary suspension of the obligation to pay. It's not a complete waiver or forgiveness.
Okay, so I'll bring it back to the board for further discussion, questions, or an appropriate motion.
I'll move staff's recommendation.
Okay, do I get a second?
Second. Thank you, Directors Pimentel and Friel. I'll take roll on this item. Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Friel?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yeah.
Director Pimentel?
Yeah.
Chair.
Yes. Okay, that brings us to the end of the Hospital Corporation, Washington Community Hospital meeting.